What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Nostalgia Talks. I'm your host, Natalie. It's been a little while. Well, for one, last week there was no episode. That's on me. That's my bad. I didn't even I miscalculated. I thought that I was going to be back home from Mexico in time to have an episode out like that week that I came back. Not the case. I came back on Thursday night, but I got here like home super early Friday morning. It was like 2 in the morning. So definitely did not get an episode out last week. My apologies, my bad. But I'm back. So, and then before that, I had Patricio put out like 2 episodes. I really thought that I was gonna have enough episodes to cover me through the month that I was gone, but I did not. I only had one. I just kind of miscalculate how much preparation and stuff it takes for the podcast sometimes. And I just didn't, prepare enough. So I'm going to keep that in mind for future reference. My bad. But I hope that you guys liked the episodes that Patricio put out because they were actually pretty good. I was listening to them, obviously, when they were coming out, and I was like, he actually did really well, and I'm really proud of him, and I'm so grateful that he helped me do that because otherwise you guys would not have gotten any episodes for like a month because I didn't take my equipment with me. I didn't want to do that. I feel like taking equipment with you is just kind of risky when you're traveling. I mean, maybe it would have been different if I had been traveling through car most of the time. Like if I was just taking a little road trip or something, I would have taken it. But through the airport, especially going to Mexico, I was just like, no, I'm just gonna leave everything here because when you go to Mexico, you should be very mindful of like who's around you and what's on you, just because everybody is paying attention to you and what you have. So yeah, I just didn't want to take any equipment. I felt like that was just not a good idea. So, by the way, I will be talking about my trip to Mexico. That's going to be the next episode. I just want to be able to plan that episode out a little bit more because I don't know about you guys, but whenever I have to talk for a long period of time, I feel like I forget a lot of details. And so I feel like when I do episodes like that, I need to actually have things written down. Otherwise, I'm just going to forget everything that I wanted to say, or I'm going to forget like major details. And I obviously don't want to do that. I want to give you a rundown of the trip because I was gone for a whole freaking month. Like I was in Mexico for a month. So there was a lot that happened, a lot of food that I ate, lots of places that I went to go see. And I obviously just don't want to forget about all of that. So yeah, I just need to plan that out a little bit more. So that's going to be next week's episode. And I'm actually pretty excited to talk about it because there was just, again, a lot going on. But yeah, this week's episode is going to be about the bear because I just finished season 3 yesterday. Today I'm recording this and it's a Tuesday. So I finished it on Monday. And, I just want to talk about my thoughts. I want to talk about your guys' thoughts. Because I posted something on Instagram for you guys to give me your thoughts and your predictions. Nobody gave predictions, but you did give me your thoughts. And obviously there's not like that many. I don't know if that many people that I know personally actually watch the show. So I wasn't really expecting like a bunch of responses, but thankfully that I thankfully did get some. So thank you to those of you who did submit something. Thank you so much because it does help me a lot. Because I could just be here talking about my own opinions and my own predictions and stuff. But it's obviously a little bit more fun and a little bit more interactive when you guys actually, give me your opinions back and actually give me your input. I really enjoy that. So thank you to those of you who actually submit something. It means a lot. So I'm going to start off by talking about what your guys' thoughts on it were. The few that I got. And then I'll go into my thoughts about the season because obviously I'll be able to go more in depth with my thoughts rather than your guys' thoughts because obviously like it's a little box, you can only tell me so much. And then after that I'll go into predictions that I have. So, one of you said that you haven't seen the show, but you think that there should be more cooking stuff. I agree. There should always be more cooking stuff. It is a show about food, but obviously, like, it's not just about food, but, you know, that's, like, the main thing that you see is cooking and the kitchen and all that. I love scenes in the show that have to do with cooking and food. Everything's so intricate and really well thought out, and I love that. I don't know what it is, but I really love watching stuff about food and cooking and baking. Like, I love stuff like that. Like the Great British Bake Off. Jeez, I love that show. I think it's so good, and I just love it. It's so fun. And I also love shows like, is it called Top Chef? Next, I don't know. That's probably wrong. But just any kind of cooking or baking show I love. If any of you guys haven't seen The Bear, though, it's actually such an amazing show. It's like the entire show is like controlled chaos, but it's beautiful. And I mean, I've talked about The Bear before. This isn't my first time talking about it, obviously, because I talk about it all the time. There's just not a time where I will not suggest The Bear to somebody. It's such a good show, and if you haven't seen it, I definitely think you should. Which brings me to somebody else was saying, or asking if it's on Netflix. It's not on Netflix. It's on Hulu, and I believe it's also on Disney Plus. I don't know if it's only on Disney Plus when you have it connected with Hulu, because you know how they have that like bundle or whatever. I don't know if that's the case, or if it's just automatically on Disney Plus. I'm not sure, but it's definitely on Hulu, and it should be on Disney Plus. Somebody said the Ice Chips episode made them sob like a baby. I agree. That episode's really, really good. I just love that you finally get to see Donna connect with just one of her kids, you know, because I mean, obviously in season 2 you have the 7 fishes episode, and that was just so chaotic, and you can just see how tense everybody gets around Donna. And then later at the very end of season 2, I think you see Donna show up to the restaurant, but she doesn't actually go in, which just kind of shows what everybody's relationship is like with each other, and how kind of damaged it is, and how unsure everyone is of being around each other. And so I'm glad that we saw that relationship start to work out, and I'm hoping that we get to see more relationships work out that way. Just see them like just rekindle the connection and all of that. I'm really looking forward to that. Somebody also said too much of the facts. I actually really like whenever there were scenes of the facts. I think they're so freaking funny. And I mentioned this, I'll probably mention this later as well again, but I just think that John Cena was a good addition to the Fact family. I don't know, I really like seeing them. But I can understand how it was just a little too much of them for no reason, like there was no substance. I understand that aspect of it, so I see where you're coming from. Somebody said that they could have focused more on the cast. I agree. I think that there were some moments where they would focus on the main cast, but it just wasn't enough. Like, it was kind of like we were just seeing them for a minute and focusing on them for a minute and then moving on and focusing on something else that just wasn't really that important to the plot, or really like, or maybe it was important for the plot, but it would just like wasn't really moving anything along. And I talk about this a little bit more later. And then somebody else said that they loved the show, but season 3 felt a little lacking. I also agree, and I am going to talk about that a little bit later as well. Patricio said emotional and deep season, can't wait. He hasn't seen it yet, you guys. I'm waiting for him to see it because I just like, I love watching things with him because I love talking about it with him, because we usually have some of the same points of views, but also we have a lot of views, like opposing views. So it's just really fun talking about stuff with him. But now I'm going to get into my personal thoughts on season 3. Before I do that, I think I am going to actually switch out the batteries because this thing's for sure going to die soon. Okay, I'll be back. You won't even know. I'm just going to cut it so you won't know, but I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. So now we're going to talk about my thoughts on season 3. I think that this was just a filler season, which I think this is very common in anime. So if you're into anime, I'm sure this is something that you're maybe used to, is having something sort of like a filler season. This season of The Bear was kind of like what I thought Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse was. I think that movie was like a filler movie, to be honest. There was just so much happening with so much little information, and it felt like a setup for the next movie, which I am actually really excited for. And I think that this season of The Bear is what that was. I mean, don't get me wrong, like the cinematography of the show is always so excellent. I have no complaints about the cinematography, because even the B-roll footage was so good in the first episode, and obviously like throughout the season. Their B-roll footage is so beautiful and so good. And so cinematography wise, coloring wise, like everything about that aspect of the show, I have no complaints about ever. The acting was great. I don't think there's one single bad actor in this show, which is insane. The dialogue also was not even that bad. So the dialogue, cinematography, acting, amazing. I have no problem with that. It's more so just the plot and the script as a whole that I have an issue with. There were only 2 episodes that really stuck out to me, and that was one episode that I mentioned a little bit earlier, which was the Ice Chips episode, where Natalie goes into labor and she has a few heart-to-hearts with Donna. I really love that episode. I think that that's definitely a standout episode for the season and for the show as a whole. Obviously there's a couple of episodes that are a standout for the show as a whole, and I think that this is definitely one of them. I think that it's just like one of those episodes that really speaks to probably anybody who's watching it, really, in one way or another. So that one really stood out to me. The other episode that stood out to me was the episode that focused on Tina. I don't remember what that episode is called, but that one. The only issue with that one, I feel as though that episode was just a little out of place. I feel like that episode could have maybe been in season 2. I know in season 2 we had an episode that focused on Tina already, but I think that this episode that I'm talking about right now just could have maybe fit into season 2. I feel like it's just a little out of place, a little late in season 3. I don't know. But nonetheless, I did like it. I do like seeing characters' stories. I really love how the show does that so well, of showing people's stories, and in a way shows their progression and, you know, just what they're going through with their character. I really love episodes like that. And also Io directed that episode, so I thought that was really cool. But yeah, I think that those 2 episodes were a standout for me. If I'm being honest, I was kind of tired this season of seeing chaos that's only purpose was to be chaotic, because usually in this show we see what I mentioned earlier, which is organized chaos, or we see chaos that has a purpose. We see chaos that people come out the other end a better person, or they're learning something, or it brings the characters closer together, if you know what I'm talking about. And this season just kind of felt like it was being chaotic just to be chaotic, and I didn't like that, and I was tired of seeing that. I'm just kind of upset that Carmi's turning into what he hated, you know, moving up in the kitchen. I was really excited about the restaurant and where the menu was going, but then, you know, he decided to create it all on his own without Sid's actual input and ideas. And he probably feels like Sid is giving her input because he's telling her about these changes and telling her about these ideas, but he's not really asking for her opinion. He's not really asking for her input. So it's just kind of upsetting. And his way of running the kitchen is really, really soon going to bring everyone down because he's being everything that he, you know, kind of doesn't want to be. Not that he's ever really said that, but from flashbacks and everything, you can see that he was working in a kitchen that just was not a good environment for him, and it caused him to, you know, get these like anxiety attacks that he gets, and feeling this like huge weight on his shoulders. He's soon going to be giving that to the people who work for him in the kitchen, and people who not even are just his employees, but I know these are people that he actually cares about and considers family and considers close people in his life. So he's going to ruin all of the relationships in his life if he doesn't change something about it quick. Also, another thing in this season was just nothing was resolved in this season, and it just really threw me off because like there's so much happening, yet there's also so little happening, and there's no progression, there's no like moving forward. Like Richie and Carmi aren't even on speaking terms this entire season, which is like, what the heck is up with that? Like, you guys can't really, like, you're kidding me, right? You can't just work it out with each other. I mean, don't get me wrong, I understand their personalities, I get it, like they're just not that good at communicating, but Richie is getting better at communicating, and I think we see that this season, thankfully. But I mean, obviously we know Carmi's not good at communicating, and I honestly don't know if that's gonna get any better, but at least Richie is. And I think that if they really like just sit down and try to talk it out, they can. But I was kind of upset that they didn't this entire season. Like, they haven't even been on speaking terms, and that's just really annoying. Also, Carmi hasn't called or texted Claire. How the hell much longer is that going to go on for? Like, I'm kind of tired of hearing about Carmi and Claire. Like, can we just shut up about that? Also, the Fax going to the hospital to talk to Claire, was that really necessary? I really don't think so. I think that was really unnecessary, and like, why would they do that? I don't understand that. I didn't like that, and I think that this conversation needs to just happen between Carmi and Claire if it's gonna happen. But I just want that to happen already if it's gonna happen, because I'm really tired of hearing about Carmi and Claire but nothing actually happening. Like, that's just, it's not what the show is about, you know. But aside from that, we also have Sid and Carmi who haven't gotten any better at communicating, which it's both of their faults. I mean, we have Sid, who doesn't express how she feels, really. She holds back a lot, which I get it, but also, like, she needs to be willing to have those conversations and just spit it out and talk to him. But then we also have Carmi, who literally cannot get words out of his freaking mouth. He says 3 words and just hopes that, you know, everyone will just get what he's trying to say and what he's trying to go for. But he won't actually freaking blurt it out. And obviously, that's never going to work if you're trying to communicate with somebody. So that's just really annoying. And then also, another big thing from this season was Sid trying to figure out if she's going to stay at the restaurant or if she's going to go off to kick off this new restaurant with someone else. And honestly, I'm not really mad about all of that confusion. I'm not really mad about them not revealing her decision on that just yet. I get that it's a super difficult decision that, you know, can't really be decided in 1 or 2 days. So I understand. And I mean, in the last episode, we see Sid have an anxiety attack. So it's obviously very clearly weighing on her heavy. So I'm fine if they take their time revealing what decision she's going to make. I'm totally fine with that. I trust the showrunners and the producers and everything on deciding how to go about that. Speaking of the last episode, though, I think the last 10 to 15 minutes or so of the last episode were really fun, but I also think that that episode in its entirety was a bit wasteful, in my opinion. I didn't really care to hear all of those random stories from random chefs who kind of have nothing to do with the main plot of the show. Like, I get it. I get that because Olivia Colman's character talks about how you don't really remember the food of restaurants, you remember the people, which I'm not sure if I completely agree with that, but I understand where she's coming from. And so this episode's kind of showing, like, it is about the people. It's about the people you meet. It's about the people you serve. It's about the people you work with, and the stories that you create with the restaurants and the people and all that. Like, I understand that, but I just don't think that it was too important for the plotline of the show. And it just, a big chunk of the episode was just people sharing their stories, and I don't know how I felt about that. Like, I understand it, but I didn't like it. I don't know if we're on the same wavelength, but that's how I felt about it. And I also felt bad for Carmi in that episode because he didn't get that satisfying last word that he was kind of hoping for with his old boss. That man was so wrong in so many ways. He didn't even care that Carmi's mental health was awful because of him, so long as his methods made him a better chef, which, yes, it probably did make Carmi a better chef, but at what price? Like, look at how Carmi is now in the kitchen. He's so demanding, so like he's kind of mean in the kitchen to everybody, and it's building up even more and more. And I'm kind of hoping that we just see the calm down. We see him calm down and mellow out a little bit and appreciate everything a little bit more, especially after this conversation. I'm hoping that after this conversation it helps him mellow out a little bit. I'm not sure if that's what the result will be, but I'm hoping that it will. Also, what the hell was the ending of season 3? This isn't a movie. Like, why would there be a cliffhanger like that? And I mean, maybe if the cliffhanger was a little bit better, I'd be okay with it. I don't know. But this just was not this was an anticlimactic cliffhanger. And those are just the worst ones, because they're just not executed correctly. I don't know. Do you guys have the same thoughts as me? Do you have different thoughts as me? Let me know, please. Now we're going to go into season 4 predictions. I honestly think that Sid will stay, but I'm hoping that before she comes to that decision, that there will be a conversation between her and Carmi that really pushes for some kind of change and collaboration. I'm really hoping for that. I'm also hoping that Carmi changes his ways and creates one singular menu for every day and doesn't change it every day. I'm hoping that he creates one menu that lasts that way, so that they can actually start bringing in money, and so that Uncle Jimmy won't cut their funding, because then there would be no restaurant, and that would be really bad for everybody. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I also think that the review, sorry, there's a truck passing by. I'm gonna wait for that to pass by. Oh, amazing. This is really awesome. Okay, I think they're leaving. They're gone. Okay, so in the last episode, we left off reading just little words from the review. I think the review is actually going to be a good one, but I think that there's going to be maybe some passive-aggressive jabs in there. Like, I think they're going to say good stuff about the food, but maybe there's going to be some jabs about the way the restaurant is run and the kitchen is run, because I'm pretty sure people can sense the tension from inside the kitchen, or maybe even hear the yelling sometimes, because there have been some moments where there's been yelling in the kitchen, and I'm pretty sure they can hear it in the dining room, but I'm not too sure, obviously. And also touching on what I was talking about earlier with Claire and Carmi, I'm honestly not sure if Claire and Carmi will even get back together. I'm gonna be honest, because I don't know, I feel like Carmi just has too much on his shoulders. I feel like he's not really a good person to be in a relationship right now. And Claire, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like she deserves, like, they mentioned that Claire is Carmi's piece. Claire deserves some peace too, and I don't think Carmi is really that for her, but I don't know. I just don't know if they're gonna get back together. I honestly could care less about that part, if I'm being honest. It's just not what the show is about, you know? I don't need there to be romance. This show does so good without romance. I don't need it. I mean, it's fine if it's in there. I just don't want it to be a big chunk of the show, you know? So yeah, those are my predictions. Nothing crazy. And so yeah, those are my thoughts and my predictions. I'm kind of wondering if you guys have the same thoughts or if I'm alone on some of these thoughts. Please let me know. If you want to send me a DM and talk to me about the show, I'm more than happy to. Or if you haven't seen the show and you want to watch the show and you want to give me like a rundown of every episode when you watch it or something, I'm totally cool with that. I would actually really love that. I love talking about this show. I could talk about it forever. It's one of my I think it's my favorite show that I've ever seen ever in the history of television. It's so freaking good. But yeah, that's the end of this week's episode. I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed hearing my thoughts and my predictions. I wish I had better predictions. I just don't really like to think about what's to come because I don't want to get my expectations up. I just don't want to put myself too far into the show that I get too invested before anything happens, if that makes sense. But anyways, I hope you guys like this episode. I cannot wait to record next week's episode. I'm really excited to tell you guys about Mexico. A lot happened. I'm so glad to be home. I'm not even gonna lie. I'll touch on that more in the next episode, but I'm just really happy to be home and happy to be talking to you guys again. But yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Or oh my goodness, word vomit. I will talk to you guys next week. Thank you so much. Have a great week. Bye.